Hi, friend.
Hi, friend.
And to the brave hearts listening out there, welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Janelle.
Get ready for some real-time relationship woo and wisdom
from the front lines with occasional tantrums and tears
about how breaking rules, blurring boundaries, and tossing tradition can be catalysts for finding your truth.
Let's debunk the fairy tales we were told as children and create a new map for life.
Yes, Disney can go fuck itself.
If you're seeking permission to choose your own path,
freedom is the new F word, people,
and want to feel less alone along the way,
we got you. Please note, this is our side of the story. Our partners and metamors have their own individual experiences, and we do not speak for them.
Hey, Janelle. Hey, Andrea.
You ready for today?
I am so excited for today.
I know. You mentioned this. So, Bravehearts, listen up. This is going to be a really informative episode where I feel like scientific meets spiritual, or like this is a combination of feminine power that I'm pretty excited about. Janelle, you just had a session with a pelvic floor specialist. So, what the hell is that?
So, before I even go into that, I realized that there's something above that, right? Like there is the health and wellness industry.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And
massive.
In fact, I looked it up. $5.6 trillion industry worldwide. Just in case anyone was wondering.
I was just wondering that this morning. How big is the health and wellness industry?
Massive. And I know for me, when I think about health and wellness, I'm often thinking about, there's mental health, right? Which we didn't used to always think about, but now we think about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then we think about our physical health, right? What's our body? And then also our skincare, like, going to the gym, being strong, exercising, our face routine, skin routine. And what erotic wellness is, a term that you may never have heard of, is another layer deeper. So we've got the mental, we've got the physical, and this is the erotic is like the energetic life force energy.
Life force energy.
Yeah. That is located and activated and stored in our root chakra or in our womb area, in our sexual organs. That's where it gets activated from.
Okay. I'm tracking erotic wellness.
Root
chakra is here.
Yes.
Down. Okay.
And that in Tantra, we talk about the integration of mind, body, spiritual, and life force energy as the way to feel whole.
Okay. Barely tracking, but still tracking.
Okay. So let me see if I can say something different.
I like it, but it's like, how would you define... Can you go into life force energy? It's a little tricky, but what comes to mind is a song, right? There's a song by Caamp that my friend Leslie told me about called Life Force. And it says, "Are you a life force?" And we talked about this before because she heard it on the podcast and she was like, Andrea, there's a song called Life Force.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Leslie.
So, but how do you define life force energy?
Great question. Life force energy is the energy that some people believe is responsible for the life and well-being of all living things. It's said to circulate throughout the body, revitalizing cells and keeping people alive and healthy.
That's a pretty big deal.
Life force energy is also thought to be responsible for spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Okay. I just fell over. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical well-being.
Yep.
Okay, so this is is there anything beyond that? Is there anything underneath that? It feels like the holy grail of all of our wellness.
That's how I feel.
Okay.
Right? And yet here it is. It lives, as I said, in this root chakra area.
Right down in the privates.
Down there.
Down there, that's what it used to be.
And that it's so essential to our well-being and is completely Like when I say I'm a huge advocate for increasing our education and skills on pleasure and intimacy, it's like, yes, you have to understand your life force energy and where it comes from and how to activate it. And this can be tied to sexual energy for sure, but sexual energy and erotic energy, right, are actually not the same thing. Our sexuality is a way to access our erotic.
Okay.
But the erotic is also creative. It's when they say it's this life force energy, right? It's like when we're buzzing with aliveness, with ideas, with like, oh, I'm gonna like do create whatever, right? When I'm gonna create something, that is life force energy.
Okay, so sexuality is just one way.
Yes.
One channel, maybe. Okay, so many questions arising for me, but I'm gonna try to wait. So, okay, should we talk now about the pelvic floor specialist?
Yes.
So, you went to see one, and yes, start there.
I went to go see Sydney of Zwicker Healing Arts in Denver.
Okay. So, and I read she's highly trained and trauma informed. It's like a massage therapist, but specifically in womb care.
Yes.
That's a big word, womb. She combines, like I read it, she combines intuitive energy work, I think, with physiology and anatomy. Okay, yeah, so exactly. I see those two, it's like the joint that you were talking about, the spectrum. There's like the physical, and then there's the spiritual, and she's doing both in the middle.
Yes.
That's really helpful. And
she's like highly trained in different modalities, including therapeutic massage, cranial sacral therapy, lymphatic drainage, energy work. So in every session that she has with someone, with every person is different, and then even within the same person, every session is different.
Okay, awesome. That sounds beautiful and really customized and curated.
And what you can hear is what her training is not in the medical professional, right? Because that is one type of pelvic care, which we know about, right? Which is like a gynecologist, or some people may not know of a pelvic PT, physical therapist. And then that's one end of the spectrum of pelvic care. There's another one, like, it's called sacred sexual, which is someone who views the sexual energy as sacred and spiritual, and activates the orgasmic energy for pleasure and for healing. And that would be something that like a tantrika works in that realm.
So it's the difference. All right. And then you said in the middle is this holistic pelvic care.
Right. So, and this holistic pelvic care is what Sydney offers and what I went to go see.
Okay.
And my experience in seeing her was the feeling that I had was, oh, she's offering to me what women have been offering each other since the millennia, since the beginning of time, where we're honoring the sacredness of our womb space and pouring attention into it.
Maybe love too. So
yes.
So are you talking about like red tent stuff? Like in that kind of attention way, right? Like, oh, we're honoring this sacred space, even though of course they were like, oh, you have to go be over here because you're bleeding. But in general, there was a gathering around, a sacredness to it, like in that same way?
No. Because in that moment anyway, I'm thinking of like a group of women, right? This was just the two of us. I just mean, you're like, oh, I have an issue. I'm going to go to like the wise woman in the village.
Yes.
And she's going to like put her hands on me and she's going to give me herbs and she's going to say her prayers and...
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So why were you interested in this? Like...
Essentially, I was curious, right? Because I work in this range of pelvic care. But I had been hearing about it for a while. I had several friends actually have seen Sydney. Another one saw a different pelvic care specialist, and she calls her pussy witch. And so I was like, yeah, I would love to see what this is about.
And so why would you were just basically curious? You didn't have any specific issues, is that right? Like that you wanted to solve?
Yes, I was not going to solve anything, but I was curious to see, like, what is there something that I should know about? Right?
What don't you know?
What don't I know?
Yeah.
And I will say because of the work that I do, and people have heard me talk about the tantrika session that I had where there was a butt plug,
right.
and there was like the internal massage. Like I have had a lot of internal massage work done,
right.
and I'm very, very, very clear on how much that internal massage and the releasing of the stuck energy that I've had in my system from my own lived experience, and also from what I believe is ancestral Catholicism, all that stuff,
right,
has greatly impacted my ability to feel
right
down in my yoni and within my uterus and in my womb. Like so much has shifted for me as a result of me doing my own work, and now I was just going to see another specialist in that.
Okay, got it. And why else would someone go?
So if you have pain during sex, if you've ever had trauma specifically in your womb area, obviously like rape or assault or something like that, if you're going through menopause, if you've got curiosity, or if you've got confusion, you're like, oh, something doesn't, I'm just not sure. Either you don't feel anything or you don't feel enough.
Yeah, something off.
And at the same time, I say all that, those are all great reasons to go. And what I would say after my experience is that this was, and Sydney and I discussed this was to me like almost like a brushing of the teeth experience. In that,
yeah, I know this. I like. What do you mean?
I was like, I have a womb. That when I talked about in the beginning of this episode about the life force energy that comes out of it, right? Like we have created the entire universe out of the womb, and we don't look at it, we don't touch it, we don't talk about it.
No.
And yet, it's something that every woman born in this body has. And there's just like basic education and knowledge and experience and embodiment that like just like, and maintenance, right? It's just like loving touch. And it doesn't even have to be on the inside. It can be on the outside. So it's and I'll keep talking about it, but it was like so basic of like,
just like you, so that what I'm hearing
I'm getting my hair done. Why wouldn't I get my pelvis looked at? Okay.
So you've said womb a lot, and you haven't had a child.
Correct.
And so we all have this womb, but we're not tending to it. I mean, I'm not tending to mine, and I had a child. And you're saying that it doesn't matter if you've had a child or not. You still have a womb, and you still need to tend to it.
Right. Yeah. A womb that it's like the physiological and the energetic piece of it, but it has nothing to do whether you had a child or not.
Right. Got it. But something you didn't list in that reasons to go is like any kind of pain after birth, right? After you gave birth.
That would be that would be a reason to go.
Right. Okay. Right. And not just, well, it depends on which one you want to go to, I guess. Like
So I would think that I would say in some cases, and I think a trauma-informed, well-trained, holistic pelvic care, if they're like, actually, you need medical intervention, they would refer you to someone like that.
Yeah.
But what I would say, in my experience, and I'd be curious to hear your experience with like gynecology, and I don't know about pelvic floor PT specifically, is that they don't, in my experience, ever talk about the energetic or the mental or the emotional side of things. They're just talking about the physical. So if you want to actually, again, be more holistic in the care that you're looking for, even if it requires like medical attention, it could be an emotional or energetic issue.
So something to keep in mind is that because when I had a baby, when I birthed my daughter, I was going to a birthing center, right? So my OBGYNs there were incredibly attuned to the energy, right? And so with my birth, because I had it at the birthing center, so I think like birth has come a long way. Like traditional OBGYN's one thing. You have lots of other options now.
Amazing.
So if you start there, I mean, that's a good place to begin if you want something that's energetic and medical at the same time throughout your pregnancy, let's say.
Is the birthing center.
Well, that's, this was 14 years ago, but that's what was available to me. I'm sure there's way more available now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe OBGYNs have a pelvic floor specialist that they recommend when you're pregnant. I don't really know. Neither of us, one of us are in that space. So
yeah. And I think just to differentiate there, as I said, like there's the pelvic floor PT.
Right.
And then there's the holistic pelvic care. Mm-hmm. And one is associated to the medical profession.
Yeah.
And one is not.
Okay. So so I'm here, I guess getting back to like the brushing teeth, you're just like, this is something that needs maintenance and care. Just like your hair, just like your teeth, just like your skin, just a different kind of doctor,
right?
Different kind of what's the word? Therapist or practitioner,
right?
Okay, so I think I was also wondering about age. I mean, should a 16-year-old go? I suppose.
I don't
know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say is you and I don't have guests on our podcast. So we're not interviewing Sydney. Right. So everything I'm saying is my experience, but I did not interview her to say what are some of the answers to this. So I don't know what she would say.
Great point. Okay.
But what I would say after my experience is like, all of us would benefit from this kind of knowledge and experience. And so if it's not teenagers, which to me, possibly it could be, certainly in your 20s. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And how did you feel differently after you went?
My body felt more open. And for me, several times throughout the session, she would touch an area. And that could have been in my head. She did great cranial sacral work. Mm-hmm. And like, it felt like she lifted my head in such a way that like, the energy just started flowing. Mm-hmm. So I started to shake and vibrate, which is what my body often does. Mm-hmm. And then she often does she incorporates a belly massage. Mm-hmm. And that was really fascinating because I always have been curious as to why most massages, not all, but most massages that I've gotten don't include the belly. Mm-hmm. And she spent a lot of time like moving the organs around, and it's like a very intimate and vulnerable sensation to have someone be massaging my belly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also, when I left, felt, more aligned, but at a very deep level. Like going to a chiropractor where they're like, and like adjust me. Yeah. And I feel like, I'm more aligned. Mm. I actually felt the same way, but at an energetic level.
Mm. Wow. Okay, that's fascinating. Tell me a little bit about like inside touch versus outside touch. If you weren't comfortable with the inside touch, or does everyone do that? What's the...
Nope. So I think something to stress is that these sessions, you're always really the goal. I don't think I've said this yet. The whole goal is, I'm just pausing because it's like so important of like when we activate our life force energy, there's a sense of safety in our body, right? Our nervous system is relaxed. And when our nervous system is relaxed, we feel safe. Mm-hmm. And that's actually the point of what she's doing. She is trying to help every woman feel safe in her body. Mm. So that's the big reason to go. Yeah. Right? So for whatever reason you don't, and I do feel safe in my body and I still had a reason to go. Mm-hmm. But if you don't feel safe in your body, then that's also a reason to go. So she is going to, or a holistic care specialist, pelvic care specialist, is going to move at the speed of your nervous system. Mm. And in her case, right, there's an intake call, which happens, over the phone. And then the first session is actually it's a non-agendaed session, but it's also a non-genital session. Okay. That she is attuning her nervous system to your nervous system. Yeah. And that making sure that trust is established. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it could be that happens for many sessions in a row, right? Because there's no rush. Mm-hmm. Every session is what's here, what's the energy that's present, and following the path of that energy. And so it could be that, that she spends sessions just working on the belly, right? Because there could be a lot of energy in the belly that needs to be released. So it's different for every woman. And so I'm talking about what, happens for me, but like if you end up going or if someone else goes, totally different experience.
Right.
But the goal being feeling safe in your body and understanding your womb and your pelvis and this erotic energy and allowing it to start to flow more.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. And then in her case, she offers 3-month containers because she feels that is where like the most amount of change. She doesn't know what change is going to take place for a woman, but that she can guarantee that change will happen at the end of those 3 months, and that every woman is going to be different. Every session is going to be different, and so for me, she and I were doing a trade because we're both practitioners, just in a different vein, and it was for me. It's like one of my biggest takeaways was the like, what the fuck? How do I not? Like, how did I not know about this? And how have I never been before? And I want to, as she had discussed, like shout this from the rooftops. And so my rooftop is a podcast to say, every woman, look into this and be curious.
Okay. And so because this is, I probably heard about a pelvic floor specialist maybe a year ago, but is it that they haven't been around until recently? Were they called something else? Or did I just not know about them? Like, where have they been? Like, why this is the first, in the last year is the first time hearing about this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, what it feels like is that the women, the elders, the witches, the knowledge of the feminine body has been oppressed for a long time.
Yeah.
And so as that starts to like come back out into the open, we're learning about it more, is my best guess.
Got it. Okay. And so, okay, I know you've mentioned gynecologist. It sounds like it's different. It's not the same, but we're told to get a papsmere every year, or depending on your health, every 2. And I think you've said, no, it's really not related. Like, if you're going to a gynecologist, it is not the same as this, right?
Correct. Yes. I cannot stress enough how it is nothing like going to the gynecologist. And I actually love my gynecologist. I've been seeing her for 20 years. But it is so fast. It's 20 minutes. It's what's wrong? Is there a problem? Are you in pain? Right?
Poke, poke.
Poke, poke, poke.
Test. Yeah, totally.
I've had traumatic experiences at the gynecologist where, like, scraping my cervix and, like, it was like, it's cold, it's uncomfortable. There's nothing honoring about it or sacred about it. Right? And it's a totally different goal, which is the gynecologist is there to, like, is there anything wrong, or we're just making sure there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I would say with the pelvic care specialist, the intention is how to help you feel safer in your body, how to relax and regulate your nervous system, and how to honor with sacredness this incredible, potent, magical, mystical part of our body. That's all.
Mic drop. That's all. Just that. I think you said too that the setting's a little different than a gyno as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And again, we'll talk about, like, if I don't know where you're listening to this. You might not be in Denver. You might not be able to see her. So everyone, obviously, every specialist is going to be different. But in this case, right, her room, it was beautiful. There was beautiful light. There were green plants. There was soft energy. Table warmer, fur blanket, soft music. Right, everything was attuned to help my body feel relaxed.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's also a 3-hour session, 2 to 3 hours, right? Compared to the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that you're getting with your gynecologist. Right? I mean, it is there. It is spacious. There's time for dropping in. There's time for expression. There's time for release, like emotional release. Whatever comes up is welcome there. And there's the spaciousness to allow for that.
So different. I can see too how it's a 3-month container, because you might have things that come up that are just under the surface of your skin, but I don't know if you're ready to express them yet, or you don't know how to express them, or what's going on, you're not sure. things that have been buried potentially for a long time.
Right. And for me, in the work that I had done, like, separate from this container, right? When I was doing my own internal massages, using a crystal wand, and
this will be a new concept for a lot of people. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So there's a phrase called de-armoring, which is, the idea is like you're releasing stuck energy in the body. And that energy got stuck because of some childhood trauma that it got stuck, and we put it up to protect ourselves. It's a coat of armor. And it served its purpose. It worked well. But as adults, it's no longer in service.
Are you talking capital T trauma or small T trauma?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I ended up, when I was doing this work for myself a couple of years ago, realized, I didn't think I had any sexual shame. And then realized I did. Right? And one of the sexual shame experiences came from playing doctor as a child. There was no big T trauma at all in that.
Right.
But I did get caught and get in trouble.
Something wrong.
Right.
Constriction.
Right.
You got it. Okay.
Right. So,
helpful.
And so really what happened in that moment was that my curiosity was shut down. I was essentially told that my curiosity was not okay.
Not allowed.
Not allowed. And so when I didn't, and so that's an example for me of, when I looked at the sexual shame, like, I didn't even think I had it. Doing this work in the way that I did it, through this de-armoring, which is you would be doing with her as well, is like, you don't know what's going to come up. And then a lot of times it is repressed memories. Or it can be. It's not that it always is. It can be, and that was the case for me. And then it was like, right, I got in trouble for my curiosity in different ways. And I mean, I remember like having a boy upstairs in my bedroom, and my mom coming home, and then being like, ee! And like hiding in my closet, and like this whole thing, and just like, like my body just shutting down in fear of like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble, I'm gonna get caught. And that's enough to get stuck.
I mean, that probably happens to lots of people.
Right. So you asked if it's big T or little T. That's not a big T.
Yeah. And I guess I just don't want to like it feels a little bit strange to be like, you're carrying sexual shame because you almost got caught feeling like,
but I think
with your boyfriend.
Yeah. But I think it has to, so everyone's sexual shame comes from something different, right? So what's my conditioning? What was the family pattern that I came from? Like that, that wasn't okay. Right? What I incorporated into, like, there's no judgment. Like, you can't tell me what I had shame on, and I'm not going to tell you what you had shame on.
Sure. But sexual shame feels really like a very loaded phrase. I think that's what I'm responding to right now. I'm like, whoa. Like, and maybe it's just like, because it's not talked about, right? It feels really big, and I'm like, sexual shame. Like, but you're saying sexual shame can be really small. I mean, let's not say big or small, but it can be a wide variety of things.
Right. Yes. So what I'm telling you is the moments that I felt shame.
Yeah.
Around a sexual situation.
Got it. I got it. Yeah. I understand. I think it's just that phrase, like, in society has an association for me that's something like sexual assault, being molested. Like, I associate it with something that's like capital T trauma. And I'm like, this is just like, even just the smallest thing where you're like, no, don't do that.
Right. If someone has told you not to do something that you wanted to do,
right,
it could instill shame.
I understand that.
Or it could evoke shame, right? Which is what happened for me.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Understood. This is, okay. And this is definitely, the Hakomi therapy, Hakomi therapy, I'm not going to get this right, but this is, something that I've learned about where, you're storing things in different. So I had a Hakomi therapist. She's like, where do you feel that? I'm like, what do you mean? Where do I feel that? Right. I didn't know because I wasn't tuned into my body. And over time, I'm like, I'm storing that in my stomach. It's all in my stomach. Like, that's where I feel it. we all store it in different places. And this is the book that, the body keeps the score. And it's
do you remember the author of that? Because that is like a Bible.
Yeah, Bessel Van Der Kolk. And I haven't read the whole thing. I've just read like little bits and pieces and different articles. But it sits on our shelf. It's my husband's book. But it is just coming back to the body. It's like, no, you are storing things in different parts of your body from different experiences you've had across life.
Yes. And that's actually a great, like a mic drop moment for people to realize that is foundational to the conversation that you and I actually maybe are making an assumption that people understand, is that this idea that in this Body Keeps the Score book is one of like the seminal books on this topic, where that traumas, big T or little t, but like certainly big T's, get stored in the body, in our cellular structure. And how can we release that stuck energy and understand it is where a lot of like freedom lies.
Yeah, beautiful. This is fascinating and like almost jarring. It's like, whoa, this is even just a lot to take in. Be like, okay, it's almost like I have to integrate it and think, I'm curious, where is it that I'm potentially holding something or not releasing, or where is there energy? How could this help my menopause?
We don't know what we don't know.
No, exactly. And what part of my body is it impacting, right? By not caring for my womb or not, attuning to this center of my body.
Right, because back to the life force energy, which is that it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. So none of us know, right? But like in releasing or attending to and pouring attention into something in our womb, it could impact multiple areas of our life, which is why she says after a 3-month container, she doesn't know what change is going to happen for a woman, but she knows that change will happen because it can't not change when you're focused on this root.
Okay. I feel like kind of like I did when I first realized that I should go to therapy. And I was like in yoga and someone had told me like, oh, maybe you should try therapy. And I was like, then I was so curious. And then I remember she's like, well, be careful. Like you're really opening a can of worms. I'm like, oh no, it's too late. I'm going. Like, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what the fuck they're going to find.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like, not to say there is anything to find, but what could shift.
Right. Well, and so there are different things that I learned. And one of the things that I learned that she said was that anxiety is stored in the labia. And I was like,
super.
Oh, I want to tell my friend about that.
What are you saying? I don't know what you're talking about. Really interesting. That's fascinating. So, okay, I have to know more about that, obviously, offline. I have to go look that up. But so, Bravehearts, if you're listening and you're interested, you don't live in Denver, obviously Google this, see what practitioners are available.
Yeah, holistic pelvic care is the kind of the modality that we're talking about today.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So openly and vulnerably too.
Well, and thank you for all the questions. And I will say that just like I said, like going to the gynecologist, right, can also lead to some like traumatic experiences, which I have had, that you do want to do your research in finding someone, because we are talking about a sacred area. Yeah. And so looking for someone who does have trauma informed trainings and who is like, since the goal is to help you feel more safe in your body. If you do the intake call with anybody or have a session and you don't feel safe, then that's listen to that.
Trust your body.
And trust your body and not pursue it. So it's not that every single person who's doing this work is the most amazing thing ever.
Of course.
But you want to do your research.
I'm doing Kegels now.
In this moment, we're both doing Kegels. Let's do it.
Kegels. Let's just keep doing Kegels. Thanks, Bravehearts. We love you.
If you have any questions, feel free to go to permissiontobehuman.live and reach out.
Ciao, ciao. Do you need permission to be human? You got it. Listen, subscribe, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Learn more about us at permissiontobehuman.live.